Powerlifters and bodybuilders are both lying to themselves. Powerlifters will total 1,000 pounds and then call aesthetics gay because they don't have it. Bodybuilders will have perfect lighting, a pump, and a tripod angle, but move weight like they're scared of it. And somehow both sides think they won. I think both sides are just building their ass off. I'm saying this as someone who has squatted 500 pounds, deadlifted 470, and benched 340 at around 180 pounds, and I still have to admit sometimes my physique did not even closely match my strength. I'm done pretending either extreme is the answer. Bodybuilders seem to think if they just look good with the perfect lighting, if they're just the most absolute sick cunt imaginable, then everything's perfect. I don't want to only look good whenever there's perfect lighting and a tripod nearby. Sometimes you want to have the proof underneath the hood as well. And most bodybuilders just straight up cannot back that up. A lot of the modern aesthetics movement basically only cares about either just being the leanest possible version of yourself, which is cool, but also being the weakest possible version of yourself, which is kind of stupid. It's basically this whole modern movement of just female gaze maxing. And then you have the powerlifters who are male gaze maxing and basically only care about what dudes think. Both sides are pretty gay. If you're a new lifter, then you should always just start with the just get stronger philosophy. But that completely becomes outdated once you're beyond your newbie gains. If you can manage to do the exact same squat, bench, and deadlift 5-3-1 for a while, then you will speed run through your newbie gains. But the just get stronger philosophy ends about after that window, because after you do those same movements for long enough, you're going to end up figuring out that you have certain gaps. You know, maybe you don't grow triceps from benching. Maybe your biceps are absolutely lacking because they don't really get hit at all from those three movements. And once you get strong enough for these movements, the central nervous system hit that you take from doing 3 to 5 reps isn't even worth the actual trade-off. You need to switch over to something more closer to bodybuilding at some point, because powerlifting doesn't hit every single muscle in your body. Powerlifting itself doesn't even fully encompass its own movement. Doing more bench will make you better at bench, but doing more bench and doing tricep pushdowns will make you better at bench the same way doing more bench and doing an incline press variation will also make you better at bench. The just get stronger philosophy is wonderful if you're new to lifting. There will be a lot of people out there that will tell you, just start throwing the whole kitchen sink at yourself, you know? You don't need to just get good at squat, bench, deadlift, get good at lateral raises, pushdowns, this, that, and other. If you tell a new person that just joined the gym, you know, you need to do 40 exercises to get started, do you think they're really gonna go out and do all those? Maybe for a week, maybe for 2 weeks, but not everyone's going to be able to just start off with everything. The best way to get into the gym and stay in the gym is to do the most simple thing, not the most complicated and over-optimized chud maxing. What you do is, as you realize that there's other things that you'd like to hit, and you realize that the squat, bench, deadlifts aren't hitting it, then you start learning new exercises and then you start incorporating them into your routine. If you start off with everything, you're just gonna end up being confused. If you've ever tried to get one of your friends into lifting, or if this is just one of your first videos that you're watching and you're not very into lifting, well, whenever you bring that friend into the gym, they're already confused enough. You have to teach them the form for each exercise. That way they're not just completely doing everything wrong and barely even hitting the muscles that they want. Because by default, most people start off just ego lifting by nature, because the whole point is to just move the weight. They don't think, you know, I need to isolate the muscle. And the way that you isolate the muscle isn't always self-explanatory. It's something that needs to be learned over time. So by starting off with a bunch of different isolation work, all you end up doing is just wasting a bunch of time. What I'm trying to get at is that throwing the whole kitchen sink isn't the right answer, but also just doing squat, bench, and deadlift forever also isn't the right answer. After a certain point, only doing 3 to 5 reps isn't hardcore. You're just an absolute retard with a belt. And before I sit here and pretend like I have everything figured out, one of my biggest Achilles heel things is eating enough. For years, I was expecting my body to grow without actually giving it the proper materials. For years, I got a lot of strength out of my body without actually even ever giving it the amount of food that it properly needed consistently. I can put up some pictures, but I was basically stuck at about 155 for 2.5 years. And during that time, I put hundreds of pounds onto my total, but I looked almost the same. I was basically doing the Greg Doucette main gaining, but for years and years and years. And that is a very, 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 very slow process. And for people that also struggled with under eating, and as someone that's actually kind of overcome that, I'd like to go ahead and say, stop consuming so much freaking caffeine, number one, but also you need to start making it a routine to eat at certain times, because then your ghrelin output, your hunger hormone, will start to be produced at those times. You'll basically be a habitual fat ass. Some people are born with this habitual fat ass behavior and they need to break it and start doing things like fasting. But for us, we were born with the Ugandan runner genetics that say, yeah, just never eat. Just one meal is plenty. One thing I was also doing wrong for years was not carb loading. After I got done training, I would start eating my ever living ass off. Really, you want to eat your ever-living ass off hours before, then about an hour before you need to take some fast digesting carbs. That way you can get the most out of your training. And then you need to start bombing yourself with protein. But you don't just have to do bodybuilding or powerlifting. There's a third option, aesthetic powerlifting, or basically just an adopted version of power building. Basically, you keep one compound movement. At the start of all your workouts, you still do a compound movement. That way you can keep your strength base and you continue to back up your physique with numbers and not just physique, no numbers, you know. Look like you lift and also lift like you look. Change all of your accessory movements for stimulus, not feeding your freaking ego. Powerlifting is a sport. You can adapt those movements to just go for full stimulus, but also apart from the sport of powerlifting and trying to get neurological adaptations for strength, there's literally no reason to be going for strength on random bodybuilding movements. You also need to always make sure that you're eating enough to grow, even if that means putting some more carbs into your diet. A lot of people are stuck in this whole thought process that, you know, if it isn't just lean protein, then it's not going to contribute to building muscle. That's not completely true. Your body's going to consume carbs, then fats, and then proteins. Now, if you don't have enough carbs and fats, then your protein is just getting demolished. You still need to have enough of all three, that way that your body isn't eating itself while you're trying to put on muscle. And once you actually figure out bulking, as I have, and you need to go ahead and cut down maybe a little bit, you got a little bit chubby, don't cut and feel useless. If you eat the right things, a cut can be easy. Really freaking easy. Leverage things like caffeine that you did before for no freaking reason, but actually leverage it effectively. It is an appetite suppressant. Now, don't always rely on that. Rely on good dietary choices, like eating vegetables. Like anything I eat, I just throw a bunch of vegetables in it and it just fills up your stomach like nothing else. If you're eating honey buns and going out to get Taco Bell, then you can go ahead and just throw cutting out the window because you're just a complete and utter moron. You probably need to go ahead and just go to something like Ozempic, semaglutide, or tirzepatide, or maybe retatrutide, because you clearly don't even understand the basics of dietary practice. And then after you hop onto these GLP-1s, GIPs, or glucagon drugs, then you'll just wither away into nothing because you still don't understand how diet works. Now, you can hop on Ozempic and lose weight, but you're also going to lose a whole bunch of muscle if you don't understand that only eating Pop-Tarts, you know, isn't exactly the most indicative thing to losing weight and keeping muscle. Once you lose that muscle from losing that weight, your metabolism is going to go down into the dirt, and then whenever you get off that GLP-1, then your ghrelin's going to go back up, but your metabolism's down, so then your weight's just going to go up like a rocket. You need to build quality muscle that doesn't just look good, it performs well. As you put on more muscle, you should also be putting on more strength onto these three movements. That is why I still keep them in there, because beyond just looking in the mirror, strength is always a good marker for your actual physique. But that's only assuming you're not ego lifting and changing your form up every 3 seconds. I don't want to be a powerlifter that looks normal, but I also don't want to be a bodybuilder that's literally at victim weight. I want to look like I lift and lift how I actually look. So yeah, powerlifters are going to be mad, bodybuilders are going to be mad too. Good. Because if your entire training identity falls apart when someone says you need to look good and lift strong, then maybe your entire identity was just built on code in the first place. I'm not picking a side, I'm building the version that both sides pretend like they are.